Hello, my name is Mark. I've been wood carving for about 9 years now. Primarily use hand tools, and I thought I could go over today what I would recommend for anybody who's interested in starting to wood carve, what they really need to get started. As you can see before me, I've got quite a bit of tools laid out on my bench. You don't need that many tools to get started. You can get started in wood carving very inexpensively. As far as a cutting tool, knives are really the only thing you need to get started in wood carving. I started with just a knife, and I did that for maybe 6 months without any other tool in wood carving. You can do a lot with just a good knife. I do want to mention a good knife. Here I've got two knives that look fairly similar, but this one here is a very cheap wood carving knife. I got this at a hobby store. This one never holds an edge and becomes dull very quickly, and it's very hard to get into a sharpened edge. The steel must be of very poor quality, and I think it's one way to get very discouraged in wood carving. So do yourself a favor and get yourself a high quality knife. There are many good wood carving knife manufacturers out there. I'm not going to recommend a particular brand. In fact, I don't even know what this one is. It's worn off, so I don't even remember who made this particular one. But the steel is very high quality. It holds an edge for a long time. It's very easy to sharpen, and it fits in my hand nicely. I like the fact that it's got a long handle. For me, I've got large hands, and I do want to mention that I love this flex cut carving jack. This one has 4 different tools on it. It has 2 different gouges and a knife blade on here. This knife blade is actually one of my favorites. I use it for roughing out material quite a bit. If you want to start using small gouges for some of your work, and if you do enough carving, you'll want to do that. One of these flex cut carving jacks are a really nice thing to have. Now, I will say the only downside with these is that after you carve for, say, 15 or 20 minutes with these things, it becomes very uncomfortable. It's not too bad to hold in your hand, but it's not like holding a wooden handle that is shaped correctly. So these have some sharp, or not sharp edges, but they some kind of not rounded corners, and so if it can cause fatigue in the hand after a while. But if I only had to have one tool for wood carving, this would be it. This one is the 4 tool model. They make another one that has 6 tools, and in fact I might want to get one of those someday. But this one has a V chisel, a small U gouge, and a kind of like a spoon gouge here, and you can do a lot with this. I want to mention that this is a cheap knockoff. It's made by Old Timer, and I've owned Old Timer knives before, so I hate to knock them, but this is a wood carving knife as well, and I don't think it's worth buying. It is a lot less expensive than the flex cuts, but the material is a lot thinner. The blades do not lock, and I only used this thing once, and I thought it was really dangerous to use. I didn't like using it. Again, buy a high quality knife if you're going to get into wood carving, and if you want something like this, spend the extra money for the flex cut. I think the 4 tool model is about $80 American, and this Old Timer is about, I think it was like $15 or something like that. Not worth it. I never use it. I think the 6 tool model is something like 100 or 120 or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I think that one would be worth it as well. Safety equipment is paramount when you start. When you first start, you want to get one of these kind of gloves. These are meant for people who handle a lot of metal and possibly might cut themselves. I got this at a farm implement store. Really, most places that have tools where they have welding supplies will have something like this, and you can't cut yourself very easily with this. If the knife blade slips off and goes in straight this way, you can cut yourself, but what you're going to save yourself is a trip to the hospital where you cut a tendon or really cut deeply where you might need stitches. It'll prevent that. So a good high quality glove. I like this one too because it's kind of got a rubberized coating. I used to use ones that were meant for fish cleaning, and most of those are kind of slippery. So when you handle a workpiece, when you handle a piece of wood while you're carving, it kind of slips out. Where this one, it holds it nice and tight, so I like that. The other thing is I took this old leather glove, it was kind of used and worn out anyway, and I cut everything off but the thumb, and that goes on the hand that I cut with or hold the knife with, and that's to prevent cutting my thumb, because there is, when you do a certain kind of cuts holding it this way, you can bring the knife towards your thumb, and sometimes you can cut yourself that way. A good leather glove like this, a nice thick one, just an old one, and I cut just across just because I like having my fingers open on the knife. Very important when you start because you will cut yourself. You're going to need to practice your cuts, and it will take you time to get good at that. So safety equipment is paramount. While I've got this knife in my hand, I want to talk about this. This is a Mora knife, and you'll see a lot of bushcrafters use knives that are this size and maybe even bigger. This is twice the length of my regular carving knife. I like this Mora, but it's more dangerous just because of the length. You've got I would suggest using one with only about an inch long blade, maybe an inch and a quarter to start, and once you get good control over the knives, then you can move on to something bigger if you so choose to. This one's really good for removing a lot of material quickly, I do use this a lot, but again, my recommendation is to get a one with about an inch to an inch and a quarter long blade to start. The other things that you'll want to get started, some way to sharpen your blades and to strop your blades. You'll need a strop is nothing more than a piece of leather, and you put this fine grit on there and you rub your knife over there in a particular way. Learn how to do that. That is very critical to keeping the edge nice and sharp. With a high quality blade, you don't have to sharpen it very often. If you strop your blades several times, say every 5 minutes or so, depending on the kind of wood you're using, your blade will stay very, very sharp. I only have to use stones. These are some diamond sharpeners. Otherwise you can use small stones. This one takes oil for it. And I don't have to use those very often, but you do need to know how to sharpen your knife. Keeping a knife sharp is critical to success. A few of the other things that you'll need to get started, just some marking tools, and you'll want some super glue. Yes, super glue. You will make mistakes in your cuts, and you will accidentally cut off some pieces that you didn't mean to cut off. Super glue is the best way to get them back on, get it adhered on there quickly. Some good high quality sandpaper. I usually use 150 grit just to go over my carvings. Some people say you don't ever have to use sandpaper. I happen to like the look of my carvings after I sand them. Some people don't ever sand them, so that's a personal choice. My next recommendation for tools for wood carving is to get a nice gouge set, a palm gouge set. These happen to be made by Henry Taylor. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's a very good set of tools, and if I remember right, it wasn't that expensive. Again, quality counts. You don't need to get the full-size gouges. Those are very expensive for the good ones. Some of those cost $30, $35, $40, and even more than that for some of the gouges. For a single gouge. A set of these I think you can get for about $50 or $60, and you can do a lot with a knife and a set of palm gouges. Any piece of wood that you're carving that can fit in your hand or is small in nature, palm gouges and a knife work really well on them. So this is really all you need to get started in wood carving. I think either a knife and a set of palm gouges, or one of the flex tool carving knives. That's a personal choice. Again, this setup is going to be a little more comfortable than the flex cut for long-term use, but this one is great for just throwing in your pocket and going somewhere with it. You need a sharpening system, so some stones or diamond sharpeners, and then a strop, some sandpaper, marking tools, super glue, and then safety gloves. I have several larger gouges. I got a set of intermediate gouges and then some full-size gouges. And believe it or not, I still want to get some more, because once you start using these tools on larger pieces of carvings, so anything say over about 5 inches in diameter or so, these really start to come in on their own. And this is where the expense can be for wood carving. Like I said, some of these larger gouges are $25, $30, $35 for them. Some of the intermediate ones are probably about $15 to $20 each, and you can buy a set. If you buy a full-size set, it can be about $1,000 or more. These are made by Pfeil, P-F-E-I-L. It's, I believe, a Swiss company. Very high quality steel. There's other brands out there that are equally as good as well. You do not need to jump into wood carving with this to get started. This is something that I slowly, over time, I purchased a few tools here and there and got up to this point. I will continue to purchase because I enjoy working with these, but I also enjoy working with the small things, and I often am carving and I don't even pull these tools out. I hope you found this to be valuable. I hope you found this to be valuable. I may have left some things out. I hope you found this to be valuable. If you agreed or disagreed with some of my recommendations, please leave a comment down below. There's a lot of opinions on what you should and shouldn't have for carving. One of the things I didn't address was wood. I think beginners should really stick to basswood to start. It's really the king of woods for carving. It's very easy to carve. I do want to do a video someday on some alternate woods that are pretty good to carve as well, that people don't really talk about. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the support. Palm. That's stupid. Stupid. Dumb.